5 Cumdonkin Drive is the birthplace of Dylan Thomas, with much of his work taking place in the neighbouring areas and about his surroundings in the Uplands. Jeff Hayden spent years restoring the house he grew up in, where people can now take guided tours, enjoy afternoon tea, or stay overnight. The birthplace and local independent councillor Irene Mann have been working to bring the history of Dylan Thomas back to the Uplands, and say he is a huge cultural figure, not just for Uplands, but for Swansea as a whole.
I think he is the most important poet-writer to come out of Wales. He's the second most quoted poet on Google to Shakespeare. And if you think that this is the area where he was born, he lived here for 23 years, and he wrote 2/3 of his published work while he lived in this house in Cumdonkin Drive. So it's a hugely important part of Dylan's life, and it should be recognised as that.
Well, I always thought, as I said, that Jeff's wonderful enterprise in sustaining this property as Dylan Thomas's birthplace should be augmented and supported. And when I came into post, I was able to access funding to provide artists, poets and carpenters with the funding they require to bring about the artwork and the carpentry work that's evident along the walkabout now.
Dylan Thomas was born in Swansea in 1914, and his first published poem was when he was still just a teenager, and both Irene and Jeff believe that Dylan Thomas has huge untapped potential in terms of tourism possibilities.
This is the key thing, is to bring Dylan back to the Uplands. This is the hub of Dylan's life. This is where it all began and where it all came from. And if you think Shakespeare brings £350 million a year into the Stratford area, the Brontes bring £650 million into Haworth and the surrounding areas. That's a huge amount for cultural tourism. The Uplands should be the hub of that. Cumdonkin Park, the Uplands Centre and this house should be where it's all happening.
The initiative launches this weekend, with the walkabout starting at the birthplace, working its way down to St Paul's Church, with the hope of expanding the interest and knowledge in Dylan Thomas throughout the area.
I think we're both quite excited, aren't we? It's been quite a long journey, not without its pitfalls. But yes, hoping that this will re-emphasise the importance of Dylan Thomas, not just to the Uplands, but to Swansea, and particularly as cultural tourism, as Jeff says, brings in so much revenue. Hopefully it will benefit the whole of Swansea and improve and increase the profile of Swansea.
I think that's really the point. It's starting in the Uplands and moving out. Dylan spent a lot of time in Mumbles. The Swansea Little Theatre were based there, and he was a member, and he used to go there on the Mumbles train. He went to Gower. His friend Bertrick had a wooden chalet in Caswell. That's where he first wrote about Undermilk Wood as a 17-year-old. So it was something that was in his mind all through his life. And he went to Rossilli. So all these are Dylan Thomas places, and there's an opportunity there to make them well known to a wider population.
The walkabout begins at 12 p.m. at the Dylan Thomas birthplace on Sunday, with people invited to join the trail and enjoy some light refreshments. But those involved in the project will be hoping that this is just the start of a wider interest in the history of Dylan Thomas. Kieran Goldberg, That's TV.